It's a pleasure to introduce Professor Kneifel from Boku in Vienna. He is the professor of food quality assurance, and he's the coordinator of International Master on food safety. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for your kind introduction, ladies and gentlemen. I first would like to thank the EFSA and also the organizing committee for giving me the opportunity to introduce to you our insight and our view on food safety education. Many of the challenges we are confronted in such a food study course, food safety study course, have been already mentioned by Paul Brent. So I don't go too much into details with this list, but we also should bear in mind that it's not only the challenges. You have to find solutions about that, but also you have to be an expert in food science first before you can really understand food safety. And I have structured my talk into 4 questions. These 4 questions start with the first question: what expertise do we need? What programs do exist so far? What kind of training is useful? And how can we shape the future of such programs? And as we are in a very religious country in Italy here, I thought I could come up with 10 commandments for proper food safety education. So I put myself into the position of Moses a little bit, and I would like to draw your attention on the solutions I could propose finally. So I would like to start with the question: what expertise do we need? The expertise should cover several properties or several pieces of knowledge that a person dealing with food safety and risk management should really know. They should know something, they should be able to think about the role of food safety, they should shape the food safety if there is some need for that, they should have the possibility to debate about food safety, they should sometimes react if they are in a company, they have to react, they have to act immediately, and they also should prevent outbreaks and cases. And communication, training, these are very integral parts of such a course. And they should know about the quality about food. And the quality comprises at least 4 major issues. It's the sensory value, it's the nutritive value, it's the convenience value, and finally it's the safety. This is a very important part of the food science, and we have to come up with finding solutions on hazards, biological, chemical, physical hazards, and more recently we have also to deal with fraudulent activities. So you should understand how a food product is composed of and how a food product is made, where is the origin of such a food product, and what are the influencing factors around this food product, what are the so-called environmental factors. And therefore, you should be an expert in microbiology, in hygiene, and everything. So we cannot create universal genius people, but what we could try to aim at is to develop a course where at least most of these issues are covered in a way that the person finally graduating from such a course is able to act, to react, to think, and to know. And people should also know the relationship between cause and effect. How can we train this? And I go back to the Pope of quality management. It's Maoro Ishikawa. He has not been a food safety expert, but he was the quality management person, very simply showing how the relationships in a food product, for example, but also in any other goods, in any other product, are interrelated. What can have an effect and what would be the final outcome? But if we go to food safety, we have to clearly train the people in understanding, in identifying, in measuring the hazards, and also to come up to calculate the possible exposure and to calculate the effect. And finally, we have the risk. And we have heard yesterday, food safety is lack of risk. We should aim at this. We should calculate the likelihood, so you need a lot of statistics also behind. And we also should have in mind that there are several kinds of different people or groups in the consumers that should be the target group we are aiming at. There are differences between elderly people or infants or young adults. So we should be able to estimate the probability. But how far would be the probability? And I would like to cite T.S. Eliot, who said, only those who will risk going too far can possibly find out how far one can go. So it's mostly the experience we have in our hands. And it's the statistic, and we should interpret the cases in food outbreaks, for example, in relation to other problems. We should be aware of that, because the public often knows or often is of the opinion that the food outbreaks are very important thing, but related to, for example, to accidents on the roads, it's quite different. So one point is we should learn from the outbreaks. This is also part of a training, of a useful training for food safety experts. And we should go into the networks, we should go into the surveillance systems to find out what has happened in the past and to clearly analyze what has happened. So here we can already during the study program collect experience. And it's also a very important thing that from crisis you can definitely learn. There are different kinds of crises. There are two kinds of crises. We have good crisis. A crisis that is good can be a crisis where you have made out a very good profit from, you learn from that, and you can avoid such a crisis in the future. If you have experienced a bad crisis, this means you did not make any use of this information. And very importantly, I would like to point out that in the Chinese language, the word crisis is not really settled up very much. It's a combination of hazard and chance. This means every hazard gives you the chance to do it better in the future. How should we communicate about food safety? This is also part of the training of a good food safety expert. And sometimes it's very complicated to communicate about hazards. But what we should do is to bear in mind that the experts perceive food safety issues in a different way than the public. So how would the consumer perceive an outbreak, a certain hazard? For example, if you consider some of the problems we have heard already, and they have different knowledge. They have different ranking of the hazards, and definitely they have different confidence and perception. So we should ask ourselves, what kind or what role can science and education play in this context? It should be our aim to share our pure information, according to yesterday, in order to give this information to the people, depending on whom you target. It could be the consumer, it could be the trading association, or any other group, and we should aim at least to give them clear information and simple information, and sometimes it's also necessary to change the behavior. So once you have digested this, you also can use the knowledge to put it into the networks. And we have heard a lot about the networks today already, and we should be able to make use of the networks to transmit our information. Next point, what kind of programs and what programs do exist? Very briefly, I have screened uh, all different search machines for the word food safety education. And if you go for food safety, not for food science, but for food safety, you find approximately about 50 to 60 programs around Europe where food safety experts get educated. Not only trainings, but also academic education programs. And just one example, we have at the so-called EuroLeague of Life Science University, or within this EuroLeague of Life Science Universities, we have established since 2006 an international master program, Safety in the Food Chain, where different universities are contributing. Boku University, then the University of Copenhagen, Wageningen University, University of Hohenheim in Germany, and more recently also the Agricultural University or the Life Science University in Prague, to be the correct name. They are cooperating, and students can pick up the useful modules from one of these universities after each other. So at least it is for a program which lasts for 2 years, and you have one mandatory movement to another university where you can follow the course at the university where special expertise exists. Another example is the Food Safety and Toxicology program at the University of Hong Kong. They have established this course since 2009, and it is also well established meanwhile, and many students are studying food safety and toxicology in this area, which is a very strongly growing area also in the terms of food science and technology. So, to come up with a conclusion, what kind of training is useful? I think this kind of training is useful where you get trained close to reality. And how can you make such a training? You can make such a training by simulating incidents with the students in an interactive program. For example, we at our university have a so-called class named Food Safety and Risk Management. It's a seminar group where we separate the students by random into 5 groups. They also have to nominate a spokesperson, and then we subdivide them into at least 4 or to 5 groups. If you have seen this graph more or less yesterday in the last plenary lecture. So the student should act and play in one of these groups, and in a second round we turn around. The student, probably representing legal authority, will then go to the producer. So you see both sides of the coin. And this is a role play which has also been established at Wageningen University since many years. And then the students get confronted with an incident, and they have to analyze these cases very much in detail. They have to come up with discussion, they have to make presentation, that also makes them capable of communicating. This is also very important. Coming to the end, how can we shape the future? For the future, it is important to be aware that only inter-university comparability of fundamental training would be useful in education of food science and food safety at the highest level. So we should combine those modules that really represent the best expertise we have in Europe. We should consider modular training where best practice exists. And we also should train the so-called soft skills, language skills, demonstration, communication, argumentation skills. And it would be really helpful in the future to come up with a solution that students, having once graduated from such a course, would have a mandatory traineeship at one of the institutions around Europe. This would be helpful to get another practical training. And we should cover not only regional or national issues, but also global issues. And from the university point of view, it would be a good thing to give added value to the graduates. This means for example, joint degrees or double degrees. But so far, regulatory issues are seen as a drawback in promoting this in such a way. So, to conclude, and in the light of yesterday's discussion, I have to say, when a student comes to this course, mostly as a bachelor, this student is still impure in terms of food safety and risk management. But we have to purify him during this education, and finally, then we expect an expert at least being a spreading factor of knowledge in the public. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Wolfgang. Any question from the audience? I will break the ice. Just asking you, you have designed since 2006 and applied this international master course with several universities from EuroLeague. What is the origin in terms of bachelor programs? Have you taken food science, veterinary science, chemical? Do you select some of them?
Practically, we have put the prerequisites we have from our bachelor program in food science and technology. But this is not the only fundamental prerequisite, but we also students coming from abroad with very different background also came into this course, and we evaluate them, or we try, before they can enroll, we try to evaluate them based on that, what they have done so far, in a very individual way. And if they have some gaps in their existing knowledge or in the not existing knowledge, we try to give them an update over one semester, sometimes in parallel to the regular safety program, or sometimes before, and we let them know, to come up with complementing the missing knowledge. But we had also in the past students coming from the veterinary sciences, from the nutrition sciences, and also even from agricultural sciences, but they have to learn a lot before in terms of technology, in terms of process engineering, because you have to have the knowledge also in this area.
Barbara Manacchini from the University of Palermo. I'm also in the panel of EFSA regarding GMO. Speaking as a professor, I would like to know what could be and how many jobs, place do you think that there will be available? Because one thing that I feel in my students is the pressure of unemployment. And when they have to looking for or choose for a master courses, they always have a problem. I will find a job. Which one? How many jobs are available? Are really available?
Yeah, this is. I think this might be a question of local relevance. So far in Austria, what we can follow, we don't have any problems. The students, the graduates, don't have any problems in getting a job. Some of them went to trainee as a trainee to food safety organizations. Others went to the industry because they also have the need for having the knowledge in food safety. Others went to national organizations, for example, to AGES in Austria, and some of them, the information about some of them we really didn't get because they went back to their home country, and we had students from all around the globe so far, but not very many, I have to say. Per year there are at least 15 to 20 students, but this is also a nice group of students. They can be handled quite easily, and it's more or less a family. It's a good teamwork among the students and also with the professors, and I think this is also very helpful because they get a good coaching.
Thank you very much, Professor.